Welcome to episode 3 of Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. This is a special edition podcast because we unfortunately forgot to leave out an important discussion. Originally in episode 2 we mentioned we were going to discuss Ezekiel Elliott's holdout and how that impacts fantasy drafting going forward. So we decided to squeeze in a special edition podcast. We still have our special guest Jarvis joining us for this podcast to help us with the discussion. We're also going to talk about the top 5 tight ends in the draft, and we're also going to talk Rocky movies and Creed movies. How do they all fit with each other, and what is the best? And how would you rank them at this point? Let me welcome in my co-host, Meat.
Oh yeah, this is a great topic. I like this. We had a little bit of a little discussion here on what the secondary topic of today's podcast should be, and we're all in agreement. We love the Rocky movies. We love the Creed movies. We love how they all kind of relate to each other. So this is going to be a fun topic to discuss. But like Azar said, top 5 tight ends. I think that's where we're going to kick off this podcast here, and it's going to be a fun one.
I agree. This is, not the tight end topic. I have a little bias towards the tight end position since it seems to be as fun to draft as much as a kicker is. But
I love. There's one tight end on the list that I love this tight end, and I'm going to reveal that to everybody.
Yeah, he does love his tight ends. There's no question about that. Well, let's welcome in our special guest Jarvis to the discussion. How are you doing today, Jarvis?
I couldn't be happier to be here. I just want to say thank you for keeping me around for this excellent podcast.
The special edition podcast. He even came out of his way for another day, or did he never leave? We don't know.
Who knows? It's our secret.
That's
Anybody is listening? Cheers.
Cheers. And we do have a stack of empty glassware that we do leave in the studios after our episodes. So let's jump in with Meat. He's going to give us our top 5 tight ends, and we're going to start that discussion first because he's very excited to talk about a tight end, especially one that we're just going to hear him drone on about for a long time. So why don't you kick us off as usual?
I will. I'm happy to do so, Azar. I love the tight end position. Now, of course, with our fantasy league, it was recently voted on to eliminate the tight end from the flex position. Leave your comments on how you feel about that on our YouTube channel, on the message board, because I certainly wanted the tight end position under the flex, but got voted down, which is very disappointing.
Because 99% of the people will never start a second tight end because there's none out there.
I absolutely look.
So he knows it. We know it. I bet if you did a survey, the majority of it would be an extra wide receiver or running back.
When you're done listening to this podcast, you will agree with me and disagree with my co-host Azar. As most people usually do, because I'm always right and he's always wrong. And Mike Jarvis is just over there taking notes, and he's not really listening to me, which I'm very disappointed about.
Would you like me to respond?
Yes, I do.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, do you care about tight ends for the flex position?
After I digest your question in an appropriate way, there are about 2.5 tight ends that are even relevant in the first 5 rounds worth of a conversation. So I don't have time to occupy multiple spots. 2.5. I just don't. There's not enough players there to care about. There's not.
All right,
you got Kelsey.
Listen.
You got your boy Kittle, who knows what's happening in San Fran. And Zach Ertz. The rest of it, garbage. Absolute crap.
All right, wait a minute. George Kittle was a nobody before last year.
And he'll be a nobody after
Nah,
this.
come on now. Come on. He owns the record for most tight end yards in a season. Last year, he was a nobody. I drafted him in the 13th round. I knew he was going to be good. That's why I drafted him in the 13th round.
You tried
He
trading
was
him
great.
every single week of the season.
I did try to trade him away, but then I said, after a while, you know what?
No one's taking
Screw
it.
it. I said, screw it. Why am I trying to trade this guy away? This guy's an unbelievable tight end.
So why didn't you ever start him? You kept starting Eric Ebron.
No, I started Kittle towards after
you
a couple of
missed
weeks.
the playoffs?
After a couple of weeks.
A couple weeks.
I did not miss the playoffs. I led the league in points, gentlemen.
I thought Roy
Led the league in points. No, I led the league in points.
Oh, he just finished in first place regular season?
Standings.
Standings. Gotcha. So after Kittle, who, sure, make your argument that he's the top tight end, but Kelsey's better, and Zach Ertz, what are we talking about?
what we're talking about. All right, if you're talking about rankings,
not so much rankings, but the value of including the tight end in the flex position.
You got 3 tight ends that are pretty solid.
Is any one team going to have 2 of those players?
Yes.
Who?
Me.
You're going to draft Kelsey and
Yes.
Hill and full go Tyreek Hill?
Yes. No. Tyreek Hill, no. But when it comes back around again, I will take 2 tight ends. Like I said, last year, wait a minute. Last year, I said Kittle came out of nowhere, and he was he was like the 2nd ranked tight end in the entire league. Who's to say that Njoku or Austin Hooper or Vance McDonald or any one of those guys like end up exploding and end up being like a top tight end?
Everybody needs one.
I know, but why not have 2?
Because you just said that all of these people may explode. You're not going to start them over a wide receiver.
How do you know? Last year I drafted Evan Engram. I forget what other 2nd tight end, and then I took Ebron. No, I didn't have Ebron. I had Engram. I think was it Cook, Jared Cook, or Trey Burton?
No,
you had Trey Burton or Jared Cook, and I had George Kittle. I would have definitely started
3 tight ends.
I would have definitely started Kittle and Jared Cook in my starting lineup.
You would have not earned most points because the person that you would have taken out.
I already did.
But if you played Cook and Kittle, you would have lost points.
I led the league in points.
Because you didn't start Cook every week. Well, I mean, maybe you did, but you didn't start Kittle every week. If you started both of them,
that's because I had an awesome team straight all through and through. I had great receivers. I had great tight ends.
Starting 2 tight ends.
Every year is different. Every year is different.
And this year is exceptionally worse for tight ends. There's no reason to start 2.
I think you have no idea what you're talking about.
That's your opinion, and thank goodness nobody is listening to it.
And I think Azar doesn't know what he's talking about either because he's not saying a word.
I have to defend Azar. He is just blown away by the idiocy of your logic and doesn't need to warrant a response to how crazy you sound.
I think you are Mr. Irrelevant.
That's a pretty harsh statement. But
Is this any way to treat your guests?
folks, this is what happens when you consume
The golf
Crown Royal
tournament
Maple.
conversation was last week.
No, there's only one person that's been touching the Crown Royal. And as you can see, when you go from honey whiskey to Crown Royal Maple, you're not the happy honeybee. You're the angry Crown Royal Maple.
Listen, I appreciate you, Jarvis, but when it comes to tight ends, you just don't know what you're talking about.
And don't prioritize them.
All right, can we go through the top 5 list now?
Yeah.
So I can prove my point.
Quickly, we have bigger things to talk
Quickly, I'll take my time, thank you, Baba Booey. Number 1, Travis Kelce. Who can argue with Travis Kelce, right? I mean, he's with Kansas City, with Mahomes. He's playing alongside the best receiver in the league in Tyreek Hill. He's been consistent. He's been healthy, heavily targeted for a tight end. One could say he is the best tight end in the league.
Yeah, that's because they need him more as an offensive weapon now. Because Tyreek Hill, without Kareem Hunt in the lineup, you got Tyreek Hill, and it's going to be Kelce as the number 2 option, I think. And Andy Reid will make sure he gets the ball. So yeah, he's a lock for a number 1 pick. I think the discussion that we're having, though, I think it's clear that Kelce, Ertz, and Kittle are in your top 3. And then just after that, number 4, let's just jump to number 4. Ingram and Cook round out your 4 and 5.
We haven't got the 2nd and 3rd yet. What are you on 4 and 5 for?
Because these are lock picks. There's nothing really to discuss. I mean, Ertz and Kittle.
You're just going to skip over George Kittle?
I agree. George Kittle's terrible.
Come on now. George Kittle. Did you guys watch how he played last year? The catches that he made? Look, I have a man crush on George Kittle. Okay? I understand. I tried trading him away to just about everybody. And nobody wanted him. I'm glad too because he's my favorite. He's my new favorite player. And you know what? He's a great tight end. And you know what? He has a great tight end. How about that?
So this 10-minute infomercial is for George Kittle. So if you're really dying for a tight end, it's Kittle. This topic is brutal. We're struggling. We're dying here. And he is forcing us, folks. We are held hostage. Please dial 911. Get us out of here. Because this is torture now. This is not humane to
We've
talk
all
about
agreed.
this topic.
Azar and I have agreed. Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle. Nothing to talk about.
No,
Top three.
Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz.
Same difference.
Okay, let's talk about...
You know what? Screw it. Kittle, Kelsey, Ertz.
All right, we're going to move to a topic that actually more people care about.
Wait a minute. We're not going to do 4 and 5? We're not going to do 4 and 5 tight ends?
You've used up 4 and 5 on Kittle.
We spent 11 minutes and we've only covered 3 tight ends that anybody wants to talk about. This is just torture. But can we talk about this crazy amount of holdout right now between Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott? I'm at a loss, and I think a lot of people who are in the top of the draft, picking early, were counting on either Barkley or Elliott being in the top 2. Now that clearly Barkley will be the number 1 pick if Elliott is a holdout, who goes number 2 and 3 now? Because there's a big difference between, I think, Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. And they're both great players, and are they really number 2 overall running backs? And who is the true deserves that role as a number 2? And I think that is a interesting discussion. And what happens now if Melvin Gordon holds out? Who moves in his slot in that top 5 running back?
Well, I think Gordon's holdout is more concerning than Elliott's. Jerry Jones makes press conferences every day announcing that a deal is imminent with Elliott, Cooper, and Prescott. He just wants to make them all take less across the board so they all can be retained. Whether that happens or not is different, but Gordon is demanding trades. So I would say if you have Barkley number 1, you could sleep at night taking Kamara number 2. McCaffrey was sneaky good and sneaky consistent, and he gets touches in the passing game. I think Cam Newton's health history is a big concern in Cam Newton's head because he needs to get paid one more time, and if he keeps getting hurt, he's not. So he's going to not shoulder charge into the end zone as much. Vulturing touchdowns, I think McCaffrey's touchdowns are going to go up. So I think Kamara's going to get dialed back because he was a rookie who they said, let's see what the kid has and let's go. But now that he's been so dominant, they're going to try to rein him in, put a little bit more longevity and stability in his repertoire as opposed to just unleashing him and, hey, we're playing with house money. So they got rid of Mark Ingram, who they had in case Kamara went down. So now Kamara's the guy. They want to limit his risk a little bit more, whereas McCaffrey, on the other end, they would rather have Newton for a long time, and they'll let McCaffrey run right into the ground. So I think that McCaffrey's going to have an even better year than he had last year. So I also don't think that Elliott's going to hold out. So if you're drafting 2 or 3, I would go Kamara 2, but if you're at number 3, Elliott's a steal.
That would be a steal.
That is, I got to say, that is some unbelievable insight by our third man in, Mike Jarvis. That's why he's won the championship.
Now, let me challenge that thinking just for a second. There's 2 problems with Kamara is that he hasn't carried an entire workload. So we got to be concerned about his health. Can he take that kind of abuse? Especially now that Drew Brees, he is on the downhill, right? I mean, it's not that he's not a great quarterback, but he's not stretching out the field like he once was. He's not making as many throws. So you can expect Kamara is going to take on a bigger workload, which is good for drafting him, but can he handle the beating? Then when you bring up Christian McCaffrey, the thing that concerns me about him is who else is on that offense? There's nothing else. I mean, and if you already know that Cam Newton's going to hold back on running, basically if you take your assumption and he's holding back because he wants to protect himself for a future contract, and you're a defensive coordinator, well, you just eliminated the threat of a run. So all you have to do is stack the box and just make sure McCaffrey doesn't get out of the backfield.
So here's the thing with McCaffrey, though, is because he catches a lot of passes. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you can double up. You can keep a safety and a corner. I mean, it's just depending how they line them up, but you really, their offense is really anemic outside of him. Because Greg Olsen can't stay healthy. And I know he did it last year, but now it's another year playing around this guy.
DJ Moore was more productive than you think last year as a rookie.
He's rising on the sleeper charts. DJ Moore is projected almost 200 points fantasy football-wise, in addition to they have another wide receiver named Samuel that is projecting really high. because they're speedy guys. And if you're speedy guys, you're going to attract a little bit of that secondary attention. Safeties can't cheat the box if you have a wide receiver that can get out beyond the press coverage. And if you are going to try to stack the box, you're essentially playing press coverage with some sort of zone help over the top on the receivers. But when you bring your safeties in, McCaffrey has the speed and the strength to get out and around to where now he becomes a threat in the flats. He becomes a threat on crossing routes, and safeties can't keep up with him, as well as they run the option. So if Newton pulls and the safeties come down to crash, Elliott's out one-on-one with a linebacker who can't catch him.
Keep in mind, Devin Funchess has moved on. He's not in Carolina. He's in Indianapolis. They have DJ Moore, who had a productive year last year. He only started 10 games. He started 10 games. I think he played in 13 games. And he had 788 total receiving yards. And just starting 10 games out of 13 games. Right? In his second year, I could project DJ Moore to be a 1,000-yard receiver, 7-8 touchdown type of guy. He also rushed, which is like receivers you don't see a lot of, like other than my boy Tyreek Hill. DJ Moore had 13 rushes for 172 yards last year. 172 yards for a receiver is ridiculous. So they use DJ Moore quite a bit. I just think with Cam Newton, DJ Moore, Cam Newton also rushes the ball, maybe not as much as he used to, but I think McCaffrey is the guy that they're using him more and more, giving him rushing attempts, plus targeted as a receiver. How many receptions did he have last year? He had at least 80 or 90, if I look it up.
Yeah.
Right? I think he was the most targeted running back as a receiver in the league.
He came off the field for 17 snaps, weeks 1 through 16.
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah. He had 107 receptions. 107 receptions as a running back. That's ridiculous. They use him a lot. There's no way they're going to take him off the field that much. I love Alvin Kamara. I don't think you can go wrong with either Kamara or McCaffrey as your replacement for Ezekiel Elliott. But I agree with Jarvis. I don't think Elliott's going to hold up. I think Jerry Jones is going to sign him. I think he's going to play week 1. Unlike Melvin Gordon, who I think is going to hold out for quite a bit, I think Elliott's going to be their week 1 starter.
Okay, let's put you guys on the spot. You're drafting second. Elliott did hold out. You got to make the quick pick. What's your gut tell you? Kamara or McCaffrey?
So I had McCaffrey last year, and I thought he was fantastic. But I feel like every time I looked at Kamara, I saw 25, 30-point games. So I would be intrigued from a surface level. If I had to make a quick impulse, I would go with Kamara.
I might have to go with Kamara, too. Only because Ingram's not there. I think New Orleans has turned into more of a rushing offense, whereas for years it was a passing offense. Last year, Drew Brees had less pass attempts than in his career with the New Orleans Saints. I think like ever. And so I think this year is just going to be more of that. And they used Taysom Hill quite a bit. Like I remember he looks a little bit like Drew Brees. I remember watching the games being like, all right, Drew Brees is in there ready to pass. Like, no, it's Hill throwing the ball. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. Whereas Kamara is just going to be in there. He's going to be their focal point of their offense. But McCaffrey's the same way too. So you can't really go wrong with either one, but I would lean a little bit more towards Kamara.
I would agree, just because the threat of Newton vulturing touchdowns will still be there.
Yeah.
Because Newton says he doesn't want to get injured, but he's selfish Cam Newton after all and needs to be in the spotlight.
He's got to do his dabs. I actually personally would go with McCaffrey just because the thought of him doing 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing is just too much to pass up on. Yeah. So I think with a gut check, I would say go with the guy who did it last year, took on that workload, and thrived in it with all that opportunity. So that's our assessment. Let's hope Elliott does come back and doesn't disrupt fantasy football too much. But with him, if it's not him holding out, it's him doing something crazy on the outside, getting himself in trouble. So we'll see what happens. There's still a couple weeks left for him to do something crazy. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for Elliott. So now let's touch on a very topic that's dear to a lot of our hearts here. Many would agree the Rocky franchise, when you think of sports movies, one of the Rocky movies is easily put into the top 5, if not in the top 3. You can pick your Rocky movie that you love the most, but there's always a Rocky movie in a discussion. But now the introduction of the Creed movies has come in. And the discussion is, if you put that whole franchise together, because they are all part of one franchise, where does Creed fall in the all-time great movies compared to the classic Rocky movies? How do you fit them in? Because they're great movies. You get that same adrenaline rush when you finish a Creed movie like you did when you watch a Rocky movie. So I'll start with our guest, and then we'll move on.
Well, thank you for letting me do the honors. So I will preface with, I want to rank Creed 1 really high because I was really high on it. But after thinking about it, I can't top Rocky 4. The fight against Russia. I mean, the best montage. It's just the best soundtrack. It was the most quotable movie with that big, tall Dolph Lundgren Russian. I will break. I mean, come on. It was so good. The whole country of Russia turned on Ivan Drago. I mean, if that didn't tug on your patriotic strings. Apollo Creed dies. Nobody saw that coming. I mean, it just hooked you from the start. Then I ranked Rocky 1 because it started it all. You wouldn't have the franchise, and he lost. Every great movie has an ending you didn't see coming in. Every movie you expect Rocky to win, and he lost in the first one. It was a draw, but that one had me hook, line, and sinker. Rocky 3 was the Mr. T Rocky, and I feel like that is my generation's Rocky 1 because I was born. That was the first one I saw. So with Thunder Lips, Hulk Hogan, I mean, it brought in it crossed the genre from wrestling to WWE, WWF at the time, and it actually drew Mr. T into the first WrestleMania where he was a tag team partner with Hulk Hogan against. I mean, it just crossed so many genres that I thought culturally Rocky 3 deserved to be higher up. And then, Creed 1 and Rocky 2 for me are kind of right there. Rocky 2 is the one where he won the title. It really set the franchise up long term. But boy, did Creed 1 really tug on every nostalgic thought and emotion that I had from all the first 4 Rocky movies. Creed 1 and Rocky 2 were kind of right there for me. Everybody wanted to see Rocky win. You knew he was coming back in the sequel. So it was predictable, and that's why I dropped down a little bit for me. But the training scenes with Mickey were fantastic. And he's chasing the chicken, and he feels like a Kentucky Fried Idiot and all that. I mean, it was just, the quotes in that one were incredible. But Creed 1 jumps in just ahead of Rocky 2. After Creed 1, I have Rocky Balboa, which was old Rocky when he comes back and has everybody's dead at that point. Adrian, he has the restaurant. I thought that was pretty good. Creed 2 jumps in right there, though. I thought Creed 2 forced the Ivan Drago son thing a little too much, and it really, really copied the storyline from the previous Rocky. I just wish they were a little bit more subtle. And then the garbage Rocky 5 Tommy gun could just sit off to the side in the sewer somewhere. That did need to be. It's
an interesting analysis and breakdown of all the Rockies. I gotta say, watching Creed 2 again, I had the same response you did when I watched it the first time because it was such a close copy of Rocky 4, kind of the same idea of going where you don't know and working out and this unorthodox workout like you did in Creed 2. But the thing about it is that it gave you that perspective from Drago's perspective of him failing and what it cost him and the emotional connection and his wife leaving him. I actually liked it. Like you got more, like you felt bad for him. Like you hated him in Rocky 4, and then he was so like just beat up in Creed 2 that you almost felt like, man, like if Creed lost, like this guy needs this win. Like maybe Creed should lose so this guy could get a win in his life because his wife walks out in the middle of the fight and like walks out on her kid. Like I mean, clearly she takes the top ranking of the biggest bitch in the world in any movie ever played. But it's just you felt for him. So I really liked Creed 2. I think I'd put it up a little bit higher. But other than that, I think your assessment was kind of spot on.
Okay, here's the voice of reason here, folks. Mike, did I really hear you say that Creed was better than Rocky 2?
So on my list I have Rocky 2, then Creed 1, but I could, depending on which one I watched most recently, could go back and forth.
Okay. So here's my assessment. Now, did you miss Rocky 6 as well? There's a Rocky 6 out there.
I think it's just called Rocky Balboa.
Yes.
And I had that tied with Creed. I had that just below Creed 2.
Okay. Creed 2 was okay. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was better than Creed 1. Creed 1 was better. I was a little disappointed by Creed 2 because you got the Ivan Drago coming back. I'm a big Rocky 4 fan. I loved Rocky 4. Rocky 1 was a little bit more of like an Academy Award type movie, right? I mean, it was a good movie, but it didn't really pump you up like the other movies. Rocky 2 was unbelievable. I loved Rocky 2. I loved Rocky 3, and I loved Rocky 4 even more. And then it started going downhill. Rocky 5 was Rocky 6 was not that great. Creed kind of brought that back to me. The one argument I would have between the Creed movies and the Rocky movies, the training montages. The training montages in Rocky movies were like killer. They were like I still watch them today, and I'd be like, I want to go for a run. Like I want to go work out. But the Creed, I don't feel the same way with the Creed movies. I don't have. Maybe it's the music. Maybe whatever it is. I just don't have that same urge to like want to go work out as the Rocky movies.
It's absolutely the music. It is, and it's funny you say that. If I saw the trailer for Creed 2, and it had like a Kendrick Lamar song in it, something about loyalty, but it was cut. So the chorus chimed in, and then it would flash a clip from the movie, and then it would like repeat the chorus, and it would flash a clip of the movie. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the trailer for Creed 2. And at the very end of it, it teases who he's fighting, but it's all shadowy until the very end when he turns around and you just see the gold and red Drago, and then it ends, and you're like, forget it. I don't even need to watch the movie. The trailer did me in. And it set the emotion so high. I did like what Ivan Drago went through, how they told his story.
Yeah.
But my point is more to what you were saying, Meat, is that how did they end up in the desert training with a bunch of people in the middle of nowhere in Creed 2? Where did that come from? And I just thought that they rushed. The storyline was there it had all of us for the take. I mean, I was in the palm of the director's hands the whole time waiting to just have, the best story dropped. And I just felt it was rushed. And then when they had a chance to really nail it home on the montages, they were lacking. But on Rocky 6, which I think is just called Rocky Balboa, that speech he gave his son.
I was gonna jump to that. Yes, I'll let you finish.
It doesn't need backing up. I will just let you go.
But that's the best part of the movie.
My favorite
Right
speech, my favorite speech of all time, of all movies of all time. It was my favorite speech. I actually went to just recently. I went to some pizza shop. I forget exactly where. But they had a picture up on the wall, and they had like every word for word, everything that he said on a picture. And I remember just standing there reading it, and be like, "Wow, like that's an unbelievable scene and unbelievable speech that he said in that movie." The movie wasn't that great, but that speech was like perfect. It was perfect. It was the most perfect speech of any movie that I've ever heard, that I've ever watched.
The movie, though, the fight at the end with Mason the Lion Dixon, who was Antonio Tarver, it was believable because he punches the buckle and breaks his wrist. And the only way 75-year-old Rocky is going to stand in the ring with a heavyweight champion is if there's something outrageous. And so they didn't just make him come back and fight. So that's why I gave that movie a little bit more credence than it should have got. It would have fallen to just above Rocky 5, but something happened believable, and it was a draw. You didn't win. Like, they didn't overdo it. So I thought the movie had just the right amount of Rocky, Rocky pizzazz, but without being too cheesy.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I like the Creed movies, but the training montages, I think they went back to like kind of the basics. But like where Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 were, Rocky 3 and Rocky 4, they got a little bit more Hollywood. But I don't mind that. I like that. And I thought the Creed 2 movie with Ivan Drago coming back, I thought they were going to kind of bring back a little bit of that Hollywood. And I was expecting a little bit more, and I didn't really get it. There was a deleted scene where Rocky and Drago kind of got into it. They got into a little bit of a scuffle, and I think they like hit each other or whatever. They didn't put that in the final movie, but it's in the deleted scene. And I wish they put that in there. And And maybe they took it out because they're building it up for a Creed 2. Maybe some I don't know. They're never going to put Drago and Rocky in the ring together. But
Creed 3.
What did I say? Creed 2?
You say Creed 2.
Creed 3. Creed 3. They're not going to put them in the ring together, but maybe they do like a Tommy Gunn situation where they fight in the streets or something. That's what people are looking for. They want that that nostalgia.
I want Mr. T's grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to have Mr. T come back. You know what? I'm not one of these guys where I'm like, you're just making a movie just for the ticket sales or whatever. I don't care. I want to see what people want to see. They want to see the nostalgia. Bring back Mr. T. Bring back Ivan Drago. I don't care. I want to watch it. I want to see it because I'm a big Rocky fan.
Do you know what I thought Creed 2 had? It had it in the palm of its hands is when Rocky was diagnosed with cancer, but then they suddenly let him beat it. Like, they didn't actually, include his struggle. He just all of a sudden was diagnosed, said, no thanks. And then after Creed won a fight, convinced him, or in the training, convinced him to go to treatment, and then all of a sudden he's fine back in his corner. I really thought that to put Creed over, Rocky needed to go. And if Rocky had died in Creed 2, oh man, I forget it. It just would have been an emotional train wreck, and I would have been in hook, line, and sinker. Creed 2 would have gone to the top of the list. But Rocky beats, not that we want anybody to lose to cancer, but Rocky beats it and was like a throwaway part of the movie.
Like I said, I think they're building it up to Creed 3. I think there's no doubt in my mind Rocky dies in Creed 3. No doubt in my mind. And I love the fact that they brought back Drago's wife there.
Bridget Nielsen?
Yeah, Bridget Nielsen. Who's funny. It used to be Rocky's or Sylvester Stallone's
real wife.
Yeah, real wife. And they brought her back. I just think Creed 3 is going to end up being the best of all three movies. I think they're going to go a little bit more Hollywood this time around. And that's the movie I'm looking forward to.
We'll put it in line with when Mickey dies in
Rocky 3.
Rocky 3.
They copied Rocky 2, they copied Rocky 4, and now it's time to copy Rocky 3.
I have no issue with that. I love that.
2 fights. The first fight, Creed loses to Drago, loses the title, Rocky dies.
Mm-hmm.
The second fight, Creed comes back, trains super hard with maybe there's a falling out and Drago comes back and trains Creed to be his son.
Yep.
Some sort of twist like that.
Yep.
Let's throw it in. Tommy Gunn comes back to train Creed. Some outrageous thing. Well, because in the first Creed, it's already his Apollo's trainer. And I forget his name, but it's his son who's now running the boxing gym that first throws Creed out, which makes him go get Rocky in Philadelphia anyway. Yeah. So they've already gone through the old trainers, other than Mickey, who had no kids, so Mickey's done. Rocky's the only one. If Rocky goes, now you need to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree.
The only one.
I agree. I think that's pretty accurate, and I would love that. I would love to see that because I don't care. Like, I don't want the producers or the directors to sit there and say, "Hey, I want this movie to be unique, and I want it to be." I don't care. No, go back. I want the nostalgia. I'm a sucker for '80s anything. That's why I watch Stranger Things. That's why I watch all these like movies and shows that date back to the 80s. I love it. So anything that you can relate back to my 80s childhood, I'm all for it.
And we just had a breakthrough here. He's telling you he has some childhood issues, and this is how he copes.
I follow a great Twitter feed. It's WWF of the 80s, and it's just posts nothing but nostalgic wrestling.
I love it. I love 80s music. I love everything. I love everything about it.
All right. Well, that was a great discussion on the Rocky and Creed franchises. Well, folks, this is our quick addendum kind of.
Can I just interrupt you one more time? I just got to say, watch the Rocky 2 training montage, watch the Rocky 3 montage, and watch the Rocky 4 training montage. Those three, you just got to watch any one of those three, and they're unbelievable. And that's all I got to say about
folks, his heart's on fire right now.
Oh, my God.
His heart's on fire.
You're getting me started.
All right, folks, subscribe to our podcast. If you have any comments, add your comments. Give us your ranking. We'd love to read what you guys think. If you agree with Jarvis or not, we'd like to see that too. But thank you for joining us for another episode of Is Anybody Listening to Me?
Subscribe.
Episode 3 podcast.
Subscribe.
Yes, subscribe.